introducing who you already know, Regina Verdico. You know her because she came in as the thinking, that she was just going to be a student, and she swiftly became a teacher of A Course in Miracles. And then she said to me one day, I think I would like to add yoga to like the chakra series. And it swiftly bloomed into Sacred Movement, which is now 5 days a week at Speakeasy, where she hosts and supports these incredible teachers that do 30 minutes of yoga and movement for us every single day. And this was just a yes. Her yes has been so impeccable and so impressive on our community. That she's now on the board as the treasurer. And we are in such good hands because she has run malls. Not just has she run them, but she's received awards for the way that she has run malls. There's just so much that I have to say about this woman. She's just a bright, shining star who is impeccable about doing the work. And it shows. So without further ado, please welcome Regina Verdico.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, Maureen. You're going to make me cry before I even start. I feel the love, and I'm just so grateful to have this space and this presence and this community to share a story today. And this is a story that has been unfolding for 40 years. And it has just come to this point where it's just ready to be shared and released in love. And Maureen asked, we went to Destination Divine Mother, and when we came back from that retreat, I said to her, I think I want to do a sermon. She's like, great. And took a little while to get it out. And then we're like, well, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? And she texted me on Thursday. She's like, I think it's this Sunday. I was like, I think so too. Yes. And as soon as we said yes, everything just fell into place. To the point that yesterday I received a gift from my aunt, and it said, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you will land among the stars. And our talk today is about following that star. And so I'm just going to jump right into the message today. For thousands of years, the North Star has been a guiding light for navigators and travelers, letting them sail the seas and cross the wilderness without getting lost. Formerly known as Polaris, our North Star has served as a beacon of hope and inspiration for many. And today I will share a story of freedom, inspiration, and hope that has been guided by love and forgiveness, my North Star. What is that one thing that devours your presence, consumes you from the moment you wake up until you fall asleep? For me, it was the devastating departure of my dad that has threaded into every relationship that has showed up in my life. My dad lit me up like a Christmas tree. He was so handsome with his dark hair, his defined cheekbones, and this crooked grin my sister Jillian and I have learned to call the whip smile. His last name is Whipple, which is where the term whip comes from. His divine masculine presence was so stunning that when he walked into a room, I just wanted to love him. He was playful. He took me to Disney World, all kinds of movies, and even inspired this importance of exercise and yoga in my life. Like any parent, he impacted me in profound ways. And I recall this time when my sister and I were in a Christmas play at St. Joseph the Worker Catholic School. It was called Follow That Star. Jillian was literally the star of the play. She was one of the astronauts that was launched off to space to follow that star. I was in the chorus singing the theme song for the play, which I've been singing for the last few weeks to my friends here in Speakeasy. Maybe we'll get inspired enough to sing it at the end. But I was so excited because my mom and my dad and Debbie, my stepmom, were all sitting in the front row, watching us with the proudest parent smiles on their faces. especially the crooked whip smile on my dad's face. At this point, I could have never imagined what was going to unfold over the course of the next few years. But there was an unraveling that took place. This father who lit me up, well, he also broke my spirit. When I was in 7th grade, he made a knee-jerk decision to cut Jillian and I out of his life when my mother was facing a financial crisis and turned to him for more child support. The week prior, we were in Disney World celebrating spring break, and the following week, he stopped answering phone calls and closed the garage. He closed the garage when I was nearby. He lived on the next block. And I would peer over the fence to catch a glimpse of him, because even catching a glimpse of him still gave me that feeling of being lit like a Christmas tree. But it was just absolutely devastating and demoralizing. This experience just devoured my presence. It shook me to the core of my being, and I wrote some very elaborate stories about my self-worth and how it was tied into my dad choosing to sever ties with me over a financial disagreement. My decisions were coming from a very low sense of worth. I decided I was worthless, dirty, and as meaningful as a piece of trash. And then there was this friend of mine, Dimitri. He was a handsome, gentle Greek man with dark hair. I guess in some ways he resembled my father, but his kindness and consciousness is what set him apart. Dimitri would never tell me when he was in town. He would just show up at my work and would be the delight and surprise in my day. He was the essence of the divine masculine that would light me up like a Christmas tree, just like my dad. On this particular visit, he had a message for me. He reached across the table and held my hand, and he said, "Regina, you're not living from your heart." And my breath paused and shame welled up in me. What did he know? And what did he even mean? I exhaled and just took the message in. It was at that moment I decided I would figure out how to live from my heart. Over time, I came to learn that the reason I wasn't living from my heart was because I was being devoured by my desire to have my dad in my life, reliving stories I had created to justify his abrupt departure, seeking my value and worth outside of myself. And the one thing I knew was that forgiving him was truly going to set me free. I had heard that over and over, but the idea of forgiving him felt more horrible than the story I had created around my value and self-worth. But I had to do something. I was the one dying inside. And so I went on the pursuit of love and forgiveness. And this decision became my North Star, the light that guided me, just as the 3 kings were guided by the star of Bethlehem to Jerusalem to meet the newborn Christ. Although at the time I did not know that. And there are a few stops I made along the way. First, I observed the people around me who were happy and fulfilled. What did they have that I didn't have? They had a loving God. I found Unity Church and was introduced to A Course in Miracles. I stayed with the study for several years, but abandoned ship when I was still consumed by this loss. On this journey, I met a woman online who did inner child healing. Her name is Mary. She's still my friend. She was instrumental in helping me reconnect with the parts of me I had abandoned or perhaps didn't even know existed in me. She is the essence of Divine Mother, the way she held me and guided me back into my own heart. And then one Friday afternoon before Christmas, I set an intention to be more intentional with my relationship with Jesus. We were really just acquaintances, and I wanted him to be more of a friend. A few hours later, I arrived at a yoga studio to listen to Maureen read from her new book, Spiritual Vixen. And there were quotes from A Course in Miracles. I felt like I was home. I returned to my studies and have been practicing the course since that magical night. There have been miracles upon miracles since diving back into all of this. And I believe I even made a declaration here at Speakeasy one Sunday this year. that I was going to forgive this, and you were all here to witness that. And yet I was still carrying this. I had a belief that if I forgave my dad, I gave him permission to abandon his role as my dad. And he was free to exist as if I was never born. And I hated that idea. It felt as if I had to sacrifice myself in exchange for him being happy and free. I was living a twisted thought for many years of my life, but it was about to unwind in a recent walk that I took in a labyrinth. As recently as 7 days ago, I was in LA with our speakeasy leaders to help set up our LA salon. Jeannie Laporte invited us into this beautiful experience at a labyrinth in Forest Lawn Memorial Park, where I was given one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. We were introduced to this divine light of a woman, Kathleen Noon. Look her up. She's literally a star in Hollywood. And she followed her divine nudge to walk with spirit. She greeted us with so much warmth, her blue eyes sparkling in the sun and the curls of her red hair bouncing in the light breeze. She had a familiarity that all of us felt, and you just wanted to hug her, which we all did. Everywhere you turned, there was pure beauty, mountains, blue sky, and sunshine that day. Kathleen shared her wisdom of the labyrinth, explaining that the labyrinth is a meditative walking experience, following a path to the center rose petal, or as she calls, the heart of love, where you receive your inspiration and walk it back out into your life, returning on the same path. The tears of my sisters were flowing, and mine were not. I did not understand what was going on or where all the emotion was bubbling up from in them. And I felt like I should be feeling more. But I knew what Kathleen was sharing was important because she was speaking about Divine Mother and walking into the sacred space of the divine feminine. And so I just trusted. Jeannie stood at the entrance of our labyrinth. Her essence was that of strength, safety, love, and grounded in her divine feminine. We walked in one at a time. I was the second to enter, and Jeannie opened the pathway with a nod of her head. I stepped into the labyrinth, holding a vision of Divine Mother in my mind. She was there for all of us. As I took steps into the winding labyrinth, I felt stoic, stuck, and a bit judgy of the lack of emotion running through me. I paused and took a breath, and I just heard, "Don't judge your demeanor." So I kept walking. I took several more steps and paused again. In that second pause, I heard this: "You can hold your dad accountable and still forgive. You can hold your dad accountable and still forgive." I heard it and I acknowledged the message. And this quote describes it perfectly. After I received the message, a sense of patience and calmness followed, like that of an expectant mother who can sense the spirit of the child within, but must wait until the actual quickening that physical life is truly within her. A few hours later, the labor pains arrived in the form of tears and shaking and physical pain in my body. And I was surrounded by the most loving midwives who just held space for the labor. In my mind, I returned to the moment when I determined my worth based on someone else's unconscious choice. And on the other side of that labor, I arrived back to innocence, the Immaculate Conception. In chapter 19 of A Course in Miracles, in section 4, paragraph 10, for those who are going to want to look at this later, it says, "Behold this infant, to whom you gave a resting place by your forgiveness of your brother, and see it in the will of God. Here it is, the babe of Bethlehem reborn. And everyone who gives him shelter will follow him, not to the cross, but to the resurrection and to the life. We are born again every time we forgive. Our brothers and sisters are freed, and we do not do this alone. I have once again reclaimed my innocence, my father's innocence, and the innocence within all of us. And I do not have to sacrifice my integrity by just letting my dad off the hook and denying the existence of a daughter who needed her dad. In this season of light, we celebrate the birth of Christ inside ourselves, our own innocence, that we are the immaculate conception of the Christ consciousness. This is the miracle of following that star, the sign of Christmas, a light in the darkness, shining in the heaven within, the sign of the time that Christ has come. And that is the word.
Thank you so much, Regina. Thank you so much. That is a beautiful demonstration of the application of the lessons. And we were talking earlier when I said to her, I think you're supposed to tell your story this Sunday. And you were, and you are, and so you did. And now it's done, and you've sent a ripple out into the world. And I did say I was going to add my 2 cents. So it's a hard act to follow, but I will be adding a few little words. So yes, the sign of Christmas is a star, a light in the darkness. And Christmas, Christ Mass, means Christ means the anointed one who has been ceremoniously ordained as holy. And Mass means a coherent large body of matter with no definite shape, or a large number of people crowded together. And so a viable way of looking at Christmas would be to say that Christmas, Christ Mass, is when the idea of being ordained and holy reaches the masses, where we all recognize that we are Christ. And what would life be like if you knew this, if you knew that you were the Christ, if you knew that you were the Immaculate Conception, if you knew that you were the pristine extension of God, if you knew that you were the complete and healed and holy, shining in the reflection of God's love, as the Course tells us, if you knew, if you knew that you were God's creation, sanctified and guaranteed eternal life, if you knew that you were nothing short of Christ's consciousness, and that in you, love was perfected, fear was impossible, and joy was established without opposite. I mean, don't you want to just say yes to all of that? These are the promises of A Course in Miracles, that you are the holy home of God herself, that you are the heaven where God resides. What would your life be like if you really knew this, if you were comfortable with the truth that you were Christ and this was heaven? In the Course, it says the sign of Christmas is a star, the darkness and light, and to see it not outside yourself. Because this is the time when Christ happens through us, not to us. You are Christ, this is heaven. Very bold words, but only because the truth has to be bold enough to set you free, to liberate you, to liberate me from my fears, from my fantasies, so that we can finally arrive at this holy, untainted, and preordained moment of namaste, of God meeting God, where it's always God meeting God. This Course goes on to say that the Christ demands nothing. It says that we have no sacrifice, as Regina mentioned. How could we demand anything when we have been given everything? Do you know that you have everything? If you knew that you had everything, you would live in consistent gratitude for all that you've been given, instead of looking at the emptiness or the things that are not working out. So in this acceptance of Christdom, we are allowing the idea of no sacrifice, because we're not here to be martyrs, sacrificing ourselves to earn our sainthood. That's already been established. You're a miracle worker. You're the kings and queens of God who are awake and aware to the limitless nature of the kingdom of God, where God is rolling out the red carpet for you. Are you living there? Because it's available. And as we share the truth with other people, with the world, it doesn't depreciate the truth. It gains value and it strengthens it and expands it. That's why I love to get people up sharing their story, because it's one thing to be healed. It's another thing to be healed and witnessed. To be witnessed for your healing, so that each of us can say, holy shit, Regina forgave her dad. There's hope for me. And Regina can say, whoa, I got over the fence, but I didn't just do it for me. I thought I just did it for me, but it's for everyone because I got witnessed in my community. And so is the embodiment of Christ for everyone. The whole idea of sacrifice is meaningless. We need to give up nothing to secure everything. But it does ask that we play our part. As the Course is known to do, it turns everything on its head and it wants us to wake up to the value of our true gifts. And it doesn't ask us to cultivate these gifts or take a course or do a program. It says you already have all of this. As we spoke about it last week, you are the warrior, you are the teacher, you are the healer, you are the visionary. If you missed that one, it's available on YouTube. So this is who we are. This is the Course. It wants us to live into our Christ consciousness and expand and experience our own liberation. How do we do that? In that section, Christmas in chapter 15, it says this Christmas, it invites us into something. It says, this Christmas, give the Holy Spirit everything that would hurt you. Yes, that's all you need to give this Christmas is give God over anything that would hurt you. What has the ability to hurt us? The only thing that has the ability to hurt us is our own thoughts. And so we're asked to just give up the harmful thoughts. Let me be healed completely. It says, let me be healed completely so that we can join together in this healing and celebrate our release together by releasing everyone along with us. That's a beautiful idea. It's literally asking us to return to love. Now, here's the thing. This is our natural state. When we were born, we were Christ, pure and holy, tried and true. They told us that we had original sin just because people told them that they had original sin, and we all kind of bought into this thing. We wanted to belong. But really what we had was original sacredness, which was plain as day. If you held any of us when we were a baby, you would have oogled and ogled as people oogled and ogled over us. They cherished us like we were the very Christ itself. And Regina spoke about holding that innocent child within you. That's you. The world bent to fawn over you in adoration as the Blessed Mother fawns over her child. And you were taken in as if you were the sunrise. And in that period of immaculate love and devotion, it may have lasted maybe a day for some of us. Or it may have lasted a decade or 13 years for Regina when she, began to move into the unworthy of oogling stage, when people started shutting garage doors. And instead of smiles, we got snares. And we began to move into adulting in our spiritual consciousness. And we began to get casual, everyday, mundane encounters. And instead of, oh, look at you, you brilliant, beautiful being, we got, oh, hey, what's up? Or sup? And we began to forget we were the Christ, because when you don't treat somebody like they're the Christ, they are very liable to forget it. And a state of consciousness began to develop based on the reality of external things and people, which led us into lives that followed standards of living and people's opinions and social agreements rather than the truth. And we began to hook our stars and rest our happiness on the world of form. Only we came to find that although we had attained many gadgets and gadgets that were supposed to bring us happiness, we still felt kind of empty. And that emptiness was so painful and yet so very good, because it was the alarm clock, the thing that threatened to devour us, as Regina pointed out, to cause us to remember ourselves. And that's when we began our own spiritual pilgrimage. The pilgrimage that guaranteed us to return to love. So how do we wake up and remember and return to right-mindedness, to return to love? The two words, I am, are your threshold to heaven or hell, depending on how you follow them up. A Course says that we say God is and cease to speak. God is, God is, God is, God is. And when we teach affirmative prayer, we say the first step is God is, and the second is I am. God is, I am. And if you repeat those two mantras, God is, I am, God is, I am, God is, I am God. I am Christ. I am heaven. That's how we light our inner reverence for ourselves and thus light it for everyone else. It's an internal switch to an audacious experience. And that is how we intend to keep her lit this year. And that's the word.
I want to say is just that I'm so excited for my favorite new song that Regina is about to say that I'm going around singing all the time, and I'm teaching my grandson to sing.
Okay, well,
So,
listen.
yay.
Yay. Oh my gosh. So, oh, my mom's raising her hand. Gotta let her talk. That's mom.
I just wanted to say that I am so proud of Regina. I love her to death. And I was there when she was going through all the different stages of anger. And sometimes I didn't have the patience to listen to what she had to say. But today, you're beautiful. And I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
When one is forgiven, everyone is forgiven, especially the mom. All right.
So the song "Follow That Star" is from that play when when Jillian was the astronaut and I was in the chorus. But I've carried it with me all my life, and I think we were in 3rd and 4th grade when this song came up. So I'm going to sing it, and I hope that you love it as much as I do. It goes like this. Follow, 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 follow that star. Follow, 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 follow that star. Up there, high in the air, over the clouds they fly. Tell me, what will you see beyond the majestic sky? They will follow the stars till they find something new. And maybe they'll bring back a dream or two. Follow, 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 follow that star. Follow, 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 follow that star.